Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I wanted to do a quick comparison between the Canon 5D Mark III and the Sony A7 II. Now, these are both full-frame cameras, but they're completely different in many different ways. As you can see here, the first thing that you notice in terms of the differences is the size. I mean, the 5D Mark III is pretty much double the size of the Sony A7 II. And the weight of the 5D Mark III is probably double the size of the A7 II. Now this is going to differ depending on which lens you have on. This is the Tamron 24-70 f2.8 and this is the Sony 28-70 f3.5 to 5.6. So this is a very light lens. There's not much to it versus this. There's a lot of glass in here. It's f2.8, so you know it's durable. It's a workhorse, and that's pretty much the main difference between these two. I do a lot of professional work, and this is my professional work camera. This is my personal camera. I wanted something that I could kind of take around with me, put in my bag, and go. And if I want to get some street photography shots or shots of my nephews or whatever, I mean, I wanted something that was portable and I could walk around and take some amazing quality shots. I think mirrorless cameras are the future in many ways, and I think in the near future that they will probably replace the full-frame DSLR. But I cannot say at this point that that's the case. I know there's a lot of people out there that have converted to mirrorless completely in their professionals. I still don't see it, and there's many different reasons. And one is ergonomics, and that's the main thing when it comes to a professional camera that I find is the most important. Obviously the image quality is the most important, but when it comes down to getting that shot, you want something that's very ergonomic, and the 5D Mark III just reeks of ergonomics. We can start with the hand grip here. I mean, if you can see here, it's just a perfect grip in my hands. I've worked with some Nikons. It just doesn't feel the same to me. To each his own. Some people say that the Nikon's grips are better, but I've always found that the Canon's grips are very nice, especially with this 5D Mark III. I mean, it fits perfectly in the hand. The shutter button's exactly where it's supposed to be. You have this knob right here, this little switch that you can change the ISO or other things on the fly. In the back, you have all the different controls. You have this little joystick, which I actually find I use all the time, trying to get that right focus point. That's one of the most important things on my day-to-day use, is definitely that joystick. You have this knob back here, the scroll wheel, which actually comes in very handy, especially when you're trying to work with audio levels in video. You have the silent, you can tap it one way and tap it the other way silently, and it'll change the audio levels if you're peaking or whatever. You can do that on the fly. So overall, the ergonomics is just perfect. All the buttons are where they're supposed to be, and just easy to reach and easy to get to whenever you need to. It's not quite the case with the A7 II. Granted, it is much nicer than the previous A7 in terms of ergonomics. You have this nice hand grip here. It's much better than the last one. I tried the last one. I just wasn't feeling it, and that's actually a big reason I decided to purchase this camera, was because that they finally fixed this, the small little nubby hand grip. This is much more pronounced. The shutter button's exactly, I mean, if you can see, the shutter button's exactly where it needs to be. I wish it was a little bit further out, but I'm not going to complain because it is pretty good. But one thing I've noticed is the placement of these knobs. And if you notice here in the 5D Mark III, the placement of this little knob here is perfect. It's right where it needs to be. You're aiming, and then you can just nail it on the fly, change your ISO and nail it. Whereas on the A7 II, you have, so I set my custom function button 2 up to be ISO, just like you have the ISO button here. But when I go for that knob, I have to kind of completely turn my hand to get to that knob. And there was a couple people, I think it was the camera store especially, that they said that these knobs, they're not the easiest to get to. They're too indented, and I do agree. And when you're trying to nail something on the fly and you need to change your settings without even looking, you really want to have that knob right here, or just in a place where your finger can just get to it real quick. And having it in the front and having it indented is a little tough to get it, because you kind of almost have to completely change the way that your hand is to get to that. And that's just an issue with ergonomics I've found. Same with the knob on the back here. This one right here it's a little too indented, and when you're up at here, this is actually a pretty nice one compared to the one on the front. It's easier to get to with your thumb, but overall, I wish they had a little bit better placement, but I'm not going to complain because it's definitely better than the previous ones. You know, in terms of the feel, it's you know, the click, and everything's good about it. So ergonomically, the 5D Mark III nails it for professional shoots, for you know, weddings or anything that you're going to need to do that just, you know, knocks it out of the park right away, as opposed to, you know, where you have a little bit more time. Image quality, and that's something that's obviously, I say, the second most important, because ergonomics, you need to, you know, hit the right buttons and get the right settings to get that image quality perfect. So I think they're comparable, but I still give the nod to the 5D Mark III in terms of image quality. I think overall, you know, the resolution is about the same. You can shoot some brilliant pictures with the A7 II, but you can shoot some amazing pictures with the 5D Mark III. My main issue is I like to shoot up the ISO high. There's a lot of times when I just want to have that shutter speed be enough to where I'm not going to have any blur issues, and I get that sharp shot. And the ISO, I find, is a little bit better on the 5D Mark III versus the A7 II. There's some times when I was at about 6400 that I went back to my computer and I looked, and it was just a little too noisy for my taste, and that's something that I'm not really used to, coming from a Canon full frame like this, and actually the 6D, which I find is actually even better in terms of noise quality versus the 5D Mark III. So noise quality, and I'm going to actually show you a couple different pictures that I took with the same settings for both cameras, and we'll see what it looks like. But you know, just from seeing it with my own eyes, it's just, I could definitely tell that the noise quality was a little bit better with the 5D Mark III versus the A7. So not a deal breaker, but that's just what I noticed. So uses, what are you going to be using the camera for? That's the big question when you're deciding for cameras. I'm guessing there's a lot of people out there that have a 5D Mark III, and they keep hearing from people that, well, you can get the same things you can out of the 5D Mark III in a much smaller package here with the A7 and the A7 II, but that's not really the case. Yes, you get the image quality, and yes, you know, you get a lot of different things that are very similar, but I still say, you know, when you're going out, you're on a shoot, you got a customer sitting in front of you or a client, and you know, you got to pay the rent. I would still be grabbing this any day of the week. I mean, it's just dependable, it's durable. Like I said, the ergonomics are good, the image quality is good, the video is pretty much comparable in terms of the look. It might not have the same codec as this new Sony does, but it's just going to get the job done. You got the great autofocus, you have the ergonomics, like I say, and overall, you have the lens selection, and that's something I'm going to be getting to too. You have all these great lenses for the Nikon and the Canons, whereas here it's a little bit different. So when it comes to uses, I say if it's professional use, if you're, you know, a photographer, a wedding photographer, if you're doing interviews, video, and you can't buy a C300, C500, something like that, the 5D Mark III is going to be the one that you pick up. That being said, the A7 II, you can do all those things. I'm not going to say you can't do them, because you can do them very well. It's just, you know, you're gonna have to get used to it a little bit more or something, because it's completely, maybe I should just put this one away and just use the A7 so I get used to the smaller form factor. But I find this, and this is actually the reason that I purchased this, was I wanted something that I could walk around every day with. I do a lot of street photography, I do a lot of portraits and headshots, and for something like that, if it's just headshots and portraits and street photography, this is going to knock it out of the park, because it's small, it's discreet. I don't know if you've ever been there when you're trying to do street photography, when people are looking at you and you got this monster 5D Mark III sitting in their face like this. I mean, it freaks anybody out. But when you got something that's about this size, and if you can even get a little pancake lens on here or something like that, or just a smaller 50mm, I mean, this is just less threatening, big time. So let's talk a little bit about lens selection for the Sony A7 II. At this time, at the end of December, there's about 5 or 6 Sony/Zeiss lenses for the full frame mount for the A7s. And while that doesn't sound like a lot, and it really isn't a lot, you actually have a lot more options than just that. part of the reason I purchased this camera was because I wanted to try out a lot of the old legacy lenses out there, a lot of the old Zeisses, the old Minoltas. There's a lot of different things out there that are really good lenses. The only issue is there was never a camera that could really handle them up until this point for digital. And I may be wrong with that, but from what I've read, from what I've seen, for full frame, you don't have any really full frame options for mirrorless other than the A7 and the A7II, A7S, and the A7R. And putting those lenses on this camera, I mean, it's just awesome. I purchased an 85mm f1.4 Zeiss contacts mount lens, and just the bokeh that you can get out of that is just incredible. And that's something that I've only dreamed about doing, when you have these right here. Sure, you can get the Zeisses. I think, you can get the 50mm or the 85 Zeiss for, $1,500 to $2,000, something like that, something crazy. And even the Otis, where you can hit, it's like $4,000. But I purchased, the 85 Zeiss 1.4 contacts mount for about $500. And it's just, the image quality is incredible. And that's manually focused, and all the Zeisses pretty much for the Canon mount are manual focus. So, and that's one thing that I've really not had any issues with is the manual focusing with the A7II. It's something that made me a little nervous because I was just so used to the autofocus for image taking. I did a lot of video shooting, and I think that's probably my saving grace is video shooting on a DSLR is all manual. So for the focus, and you get really used to it after a while. I mean, just trying to nail that focus, and but I never really used it for photography. And once I picked up that manual focus lens, it almost felt like it was just natural. And a lot of the times I feel I get even better focus with the manual focus lens now than the previous autofocus. And it's kind of that computer. Are you better than the computer? And as the autofocus gets better, you're not. But for some reason, I still feel that my focus abilities are a little bit better than a lot of the autofocus that the Canons and the other cameras can do. And coming from a 6D that didn't have the best autofocus to begin with, it's not a big deal. So I do really like focusing manually, and that's something I'm really looking forward to continue doing and purchasing more legacy lenses that are manual focus only. So in conclusion, I don't really have an answer as to what is the better camera. Because it comes down to the uses. What are you going to be using this for? And I've said it already, and I'll say it again. Is this going to be something that you're going to need every day, a dependable camera that you're going to need to get that shot, you're going to be running around, and you want to just make sure that you're going to have a camera that can withstand everything that you throw at it and get the shot and please your clients? And I still say the DSLR or the 5D Mark III, the D800, something like that is probably going to be the best for you. I could be wrong. There's other people out there. I know there's even photographers now, professional photographers that are just switching fully to mirrorless. But I still say, at this point in time, that the DSLRs like the 5D Mark III is going to get the job done better than something like this. I shouldn't say get the job done better, but it's just, for me at least, this is the one I'd always be grabbing for. If somebody said, you got to shoot today, which camera are you taking? But that being said, when you have some downtime or you just want something that is going to be discreet but still get you the comparable image quality that the 5D Mark III or something comparable to that is going to do, then the A7, the A7II is definitely going to be a great option for you. It's going to be something that's more discreet, it's going to be something that's cheaper, and it's just a great option. So you can't really go wrong with either camera. They're both great. It just depends on what you're going to use it for. So if you have any questions, just leave your comments below, and I'll be sure to get to them. And if there's anything else that you feel I've missed or you'd like me to go over, review, or compare, please let me know as well. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these in the future, so please subscribe. Thank you very much.